So I can recall when you first go on Real Housewives of New York, some people that I know, they said, "Why is she doing this? Why is
Hmm.
she going on Real Housewives?" But then I was talking to them. I said, "Y'all don't know Miss Ebony.
That part.
Ebony's
That part.
Ebony's not going to go on some foolishness. Y'all don't know." And I'm going to be honest with you. I never watched the show before, so I
Yep.
only watched it because of you. And you were able to make that what it was, and of course, go on to what you're doing now. But how did you deal with? I'm sure you heard the naysayers out there because reality TV has a bad rap for some fair reasons. How did you deal with the folks who were
Absolutely.
wondering why you
Yeah,
were
I,
doing
I probably know some names and faces of who you're referring to.
it?
And I never took it personally, Clay, to your
Right.
point. These were people that I had some close relationships with, some just industry tangential associateships. But like you said, the nature of reality television, particularly for Black women, I think it's important to note, has been historically marred with um, regurgitation and amplification of stereotypes of Black, just Black bad behavior of women broadly, even controlling for race, right? Women behaving badly, putting themselves in front of cameras for the sake of the most desperate insecurities. I mean, that's essentially reality TV in a nutshell. And the question will become, why would, I mean, Tamron Hall asked me this on her show in my face. Why would a credible, educated, respectful, Black, conscious, right? So a woman with a Black studies degree from Carolina and a law degree and this resume to rival most choose to do such a thing as dreadful as become a housewife? I get it, Clay. I just always had a plan. It really wasn't very different than why I went to Fox News. I heard the same narrative. And I'm gonna be candid with you, Clay. A lot of people say the same thing when I went on State of the Culture. Why would I go on this hip hop talk show with the likes of, Joe Budden and such? I don't ever take a role. I never accept an offer from a capacity unless I am clear about my intention around what I'm going to do in the space. And I'm going to tell you this part, it's never about the show or even my castmates or colleagues, Clay. It's about the audience. I went to Fox News not because of O'Reilly and them. I didn't give a damn about them then, don't now. It was about the importance of that particular audience seeing someone like me. Same with State of the Culture. That is a particular audience that consumes hip hop talk content. And it was very important for those mostly young Black audience members to hear from a Black woman who has a command of law, justice, criminal systems, prison industrial complex from an expert lens. And I had some fun there too. So it was the same with Housewives. That particular audience who is likely not listening to the Clay Kane show, likely not listening to NPR or
Right.
PBS or CBS or even Fox. Maybe they're watching Fox News. But the point is, these are people that are tuning to lean out of elevated intellectualism. So I need to get in front of them the most, hence the urgency for Real Housewives.
It's funny, although you're a high profile person, I think a lot of people can relate to that, whether they are in corporate America.
Yes.
They're going to a job for a particular reason, and they got to be in this cubicle. Why are you changing jobs? Why are you going to that job? I think we can all relate to you make decisions and you have a plan
Yep.
and an agenda to move forward. So I love it. So let's talk about this. Has got to be one of the best book titles of
Oh, thank
recent
you.
years. I mean, considering what we see right now, Bet on Black, the good news
Yep.
about being black in America today. I love it. Ebony K. Williams, why that title?
It's the subtitle for me, Clay. Betting
Yes.
on Black is not new to the culture. I don't pretend to own that moniker. That's Wesley Snipes. That's Passenger 57.
Yes.
That's a lot of books. And we kind of know that colloquially. But what is really special to me about the title and the guts of the book is the celebration of Blackness. Oftentimes, I think when we think about Blackness, even those of us who are steeped in Black academia, we are often, by necessity, we kind of can get stuck in the trauma story. We can kind of get stuck in the heartache. It can remain in the underbelly of the unfortunate aspects of how Blackness has been hostily in relationship to Americana, particularly. And I simply said, especially after reading Isabel Wilkinson's Cast, she perfectly, simply, and brilliantly, Clay, points out how very arbitrary existing narratives around Blackness in America, and we know globally, but I wanted to focus this book domestically for a reason. How absolutely arbitrary narratives around Blackness are. If we know it's arbitrary, Clay, then we can regurgitate it, as Baldwin would tell us to do, and we can replace it with something that is accurate, and we can reject the arbitrary nature of the mythology around Blackness, and actually show up in the accurate placement of exactly who and what we are. And that's, to me, the good news about being Black in today. Essentially, we know better, thus we get the privileged opportunity and responsibility, for some of us, to amplify that to the world.
When we think about Blackness, and I don't know if this is because of social media. I mean, we've always had these weird conversations within our community, but I feel like I'm seeing more and more, Ebony, of Blackness being chopped up and dissected.
Mm.
That you're not really Black American if
Oh,
both your parents weren't born in this country. And I'm thinking, do y'all know that Shirley Chisholm's parents weren't born in this country? Do y'all know that Colin Powell's parents weren't born in this country? I think about the way Vice President Kamala Harris is being chopped up. I think about there's this degree of Blackness that maybe it was around when I was a kid, but I just didn't feel it in that way because I'm from West Philadelphia. And
mm,
this is concerning because I feel like if they could chop Blackness up as much as possible, then it makes us less of a collective.
mm,
We shouldn't be at war with somebody who one of their parents are from the West Indies, or we shouldn't be at war with somebody who's from West Africa, or somebody who has a white parent and a Black parent, but they're not white passing. What do you think is going on here? I hear this constantly, and I feel like it's more insidious than it was when I was younger.
Well, I feel like it's consistent for me. I also grew up in the American South, Clay. So growing up, born in Southeast Louisiana, and then at the age of 5, moving and being raised all the way to my adolescence in Charlotte, North Carolina, the so-called New South, that's a whole nother book. Maybe I'll write that book. Anyway,
That's
um, I felt this in perpetuity, actually. I've always felt this. And I also write about this in the book, right? And I'm very careful around how I am very loosely defining Blackness in this book. A lot of people in the editorial process, as you know how fun that can be. A lot of people on my editorial team, Clay, from my editor on down. Well, Ebony, you have to, if you're going to write this book, you have to define Blackness. What is Blackness on the premise in which you are speaking to in this book? And as I've always said in my career, Clay, because I concur with you, what you're speaking to is an overt attempt to dilute. It's a dilution of Blackness. And the more you can dilute something as treasured, special, and powerful as Blackness, the more you can undermine it. Let's be very clear on the intention around that. Again, to me, it always comes from an aspect of whiteness. But again,
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
yeah, right. We know this. But back to how I refused to narrowly define Blackness, it's for the reason you just spoke about, because that is an undermining of our incredible essence. So I define Blackness this way: it is simply the Africa in you. So it is simply the Africa in you. However, big, large, small, visible, not visible, generationally tangential or not, it is merely the Africa in you. So, for example, you spoke about the Shirley Chisholm, first Black Congresswoman in America, immigrant of, I want to say, Barbados,
Barbados and I'm not sure, but
maybe Grenada, yeah. But anyways,
in,
and
in
she
the
spent
Caribbean.
many years in her childhood on those islands as well. Anyways, the point is what we know, whether you're talking about coast of Africa or sub-Saharan or Eastern or whatever part of Africa, whether you're talking about the Caribbean or whether you're talking about the deep American South, we're all tethered by the Africa in us. We simply got dropped off at different ports. That's it. That is the only distinction. And if you really know the actuality of your history, which is why I start this book, Clay, with accuracy, then you start from that premise. And this also includes other parts of the global diaspora. This is talking about southern parts of Asia. This is talking about aspects of the Middle East. This is talking about certain parts even of Europe, okay, where it is the Africa in you that is the connective tissue, whether you're Jamaican, whether you're from Sierra Leone, whether you are from Mississippi. We are all tethered and connected and empowered through the connective tissue of our Africana. And also, of course, in the book, talk a lot about colorism because we know how toxic, and again, all derivative of whiteness, all derivative. And when I say whiteness, let's be clear, Clay, you know this, your audience probably knows what I mean. I'm not talking about white individuals. I'm not talking about white people individually. I'm talking about aspects of whiteness, which is a particular brand of social supremacy, which again has arbitrarily globally taken foothold on this global diaspora that assigns categories and valuations based off of a white supreme baseline, and then says everybody else is being evaluated and assigned value and humanity according to its proximity to whiteness. And if we work backwards from that model, that's why we have to be wholly dependent on my proposition that we need to hold on for dear life to the mere fact that your Africa is what gives you permission and entitlement to your Blackness, however that shows up for you.